The following podcast will contain spoilers, tangents, hot takes, and excessive foul language. Viewer discretion is advised. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, horror fans, and welcome to episode 313 of Frightmares. I'm your host, Austin Proctor, and joining me today for 2020's Uncle Peckerhead is my wife, Gabrielle Proctor.
Hello.
Hello, why are you waving?
Because there's a camera.
And also today we have a very special guest, the director of said movie, Mr. Matthew Lawrence. How are we today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Austin and Gabby.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We always appreciate it when directors take time out of their day to talk to a couple of goofballs here. So, and we're big fans of this movie as well. And it's one that has really good ratings, and I don't feel like it's talked about enough. So I'm really glad you answered us so we could spread the word about Uncle Peckerhead, because it is a lot of fun. So, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just wanted to say that was very kind of you to say. Yeah. I love, I mean, anybody, it still is mind blowing when anybody reaches out and cares enough about the movie to talk about it. So I'm happy to be here.
Awesome.
I love bringing this movie up to people, because then there's that good few minutes where I'm trying to talk about the movie, but they're still back on the part where I said Peckerhead. And I was trying to explain that we were interviewing you to my parents, and I'm on the phone with them. Apparently my dad's miming to my mom, and he's like, "Did she say Peckerhead? What did she say?" And she's like, "Yes, she said Peckerhead." I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's right, Dad. You got it.
You heard it.
And he's like, "I'm confused."
It's like, aside from that, we're interviewing the director. Focus on that part. So, a small bio here about Matthew. Matthew John Lawrence is an American writer, director, producer, and editor. His work, which includes both narrative and documentary, has played at over 180 festivals, museums, and art houses on 5 different continents, having earned numerous awards along the way. His films and videos have been written about in the New York Times, Entertainment Weekly, USA Today, and the AV Club, among others. Matthew's feature film, Uncle Peckerhead, was produced by Subtlety Rex and distributed in August 2020 by Dread Central. The genre arm of Epic Pictures Group, the film holds a 100% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes and is available in over 30 countries internationally. His latest feature film, Bloody Axe Wound, was recently released by Shudder, and you can stream it now. And going back to the 100% approval rating, I'm not the biggest fan of how Rotten Tomatoes does their whatever, but holding 100%, that is a feat in itself, which is very impressive to have, especially for an indie movie. So I have to congratulate you on that one for maintaining a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, because like I said, that's not easy to do.
That is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, Austin, I'm with you. I hate the binary nature of Rotten Tomatoes. Sometimes it falls in your favor, like it did with Peckerhead. It still blows my mind. It's like the one thing when my mom talks about the movie, that's what she leads with. But it doesn't fall in your favor. Like you mentioned, my latest feature film, Bloody Axe Wound. I think like if you read the reviews, they're not bad, they're okay, but just because that binary nature of Rotten Tomatoes, if it's not like a 5.1, if it's a 4.9, you just kind of, you fall into the what is it, the stinky meter or the rotten meter.
Whatever it's called. Yeah.
I didn't even know.
So yeah, I mean, I sometimes I like to leverage it, but sometimes it just, it completely bones you.
Yeah, because their metric is strange. It's I don't know if it's people that are doing it and looking at the reviews, but essentially if they are deemed positive, then that's a positive mark. If they are deemed negative, then it's a negative mark. And it's just a very bizarre system. I'm more privy to Letterboxd because you can actually rate them. And even on Letterboxd, this holds a 3.2 out of 5, which again, for an indie movie is very, very good. and well deserved too, of course. So the ratings speak for themselves. So if you haven't seen Uncle Peckerhead at this point, stop this episode, go watch it on Prime, because we are going to spoil the absolute shit out of it. So I don't want anybody to not see this movie before hearing us talk about it.
It's certainly streaming in a lot of places right now. Which is convenient.
It is, yeah. So I think at this point it's safe to say that you're a horror fan, I would assume, correct?
Yeah, totally. I mean, since I was born in the 80s,
okay.
I grew up in video stores, so horror holds a very near and dear place to my heart since a very early age.
Okay, so you got into horror movies pretty early, and was there ever a moment in your childhood that you were like, oh, I want to direct movies, or did you kind of just, happen to find your way to directing horror movies?
Yeah, I mean, directing was never on the table, just because, friends and family, nobody in my orbit was involved in movies or TV or anything production related. So it sounds so silly now looking back on it, but even up until like I was 17, 18 years old, I thought, people made movies in Hollywood. It was far away. Like, I mean, the only person that kind of started to kind of break it open for me when I was a little bit younger was Kevin Smith, because I grew up in New Jersey. Him being a Jersey guy, a Jersey kid, kind of growing up just, a county north of me. It was very inspirational, but still, I mean, I thought that was like just kind of that one kind of lightning in a bottle moment. So I had never really considered that I was a huge movie fan. I mean, even growing up, instead of watching Sesame Street or Mr. Rogers, I was watching, anything from Ghostbusters to Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I was always a film fan. So when I started college, I was I was studying pre-law, so I was like in political science and stuff like that, and I fucking hated it. I absolutely hate. I mean, it's just like, you look back at when you were young, and I think like my mom told me that you like to argue and you like to read, so you should be a lawyer. So at 18, I'm just like, I don't know shit, so I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll be a lawyer. That's
Why not?
it. And I'll make yeah. So when I started my first year of college, I hated it. And the college where I was studying just didn't have a film program. So I studied communication. I took a bunch of like TV and radio classes. I interned at a few places in New York City because I decided I wanted to be a comedy writer. So I interned for the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, Saturday Night Live. But I was also in a band, so that was kind of what I was going to do. So I was in college, I was kind of like keeping like specifically like my mom, but my parents happy. And I was in a band, and when we broke up, when I graduated college, I was in that band for like another couple years. We toured, we released a record, and then when we broke up, I worked in advertising, hated that. And then finally, like, it wasn't until my mid-20s that I was like, I'm going to go to school for film. I'm going to study film. I want to be a filmmaker. And that's when I ended up, I applied to grad school, got into Boston University. And that's when I first started like doing film seriously. And I was like, maybe this could be a career.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it wasn't something like, now looking back, I can't imagine my life not making movies. It's like the only thing that I think has kept me kind of sane and happy. I hate, like, I'm not the type of person, I don't think many people are, but I can't hold a job too long with it, like, that I hate, or I even like kind of don't like. And film has been the only thing besides teaching that I really like. It kind of like it keeps me going. I feel like I'm moving forward. But it's crazy that like it wasn't until I was probably in my mid-20s that I thought I could do it.
Interesting, yeah, because the first credit we have for you on IMDb is something called Stripper Cake, which sounds just wildly fun. And I've noticed, because I've read a lot of the descriptions from the shorts and some of the stuff you've done, and there seems to be almost a punk rock element and some sort of cannibalism in almost everything you do, and I love that. So obviously, you said you were in a band, which answers one of my later questions, so I assume that had some sort of inspiration for Uncle Peckerhead. Is that kind of how you started with the inspiration of kind of touring, doing band stuff? Is that how that happened?
Yeah, I mean, since I was in my early teens, I was playing music. I was in punk bands. So yeah, I mean, that was like completely Peckerhead was just kind of taking a lot of kind of my influences and just kind of like life experiences, and also like my brother worked in music. Now he's moved on to another business, but he was a talent booker for a bunch of venues. He had connections, so like a lot of the places where they played, or a lot of the locations that we were able to get were through him. A lot of the band connections were either like my friends or his friends. So yeah, I mean, music is such an integral part of just my life. Still to this day, I'd say like, movies and music are just kind of like, I love on them equally. I've since like, I haven't been in a band in probably like over a decade, but I still like try and go to a show like every couple of weeks. I still try and like discover new bands and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, music is so kind of ingrained in kind of what I want to kind of infuse into my films. Like maybe not every film is going to be based on a band, but music I think is such a like a part of kind of like, I can't help. It's just almost unconscious how it kind of like makes its way into that work. And I can't believe you're citing Stripper Cake. That was actually the film I made after my first year in grad school. That was kind of my first year film.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a horror comedy about a bachelor party that thinks they ate the stripper that was in the cake that they had come in. And it's just kind of this really weird, whacked out. It's something I actually went because my mom's moving out of her house in Jersey, so I went there to get like a bunch of just like knickknacks and stuff that just kind of never made its way to Philadelphia, where my wife and I now live. And I found a burned DVD of Stripper Cake and some of my first year movies that I've ripped and put on my Vimeo. It's not public, but it's like I couldn't believe I found it. I've been looking for that movie for probably, I mean, almost like a decade. I could not. I thought it had been lost forever. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's another one that I wanted to watch, but it's not streaming anywhere. It is called 2 Pints Lighter, and that sounds like way too much fun. I don't know if there's any way to watch that, but I would pay all the money to watch that movie.
That was my first feature film. And what happened was we made it for like under 20,000, I think 18,000 all in the can. Yeah, I mean, that was like very much like, 5-person crew, run and gun, like steal whatever you can, no permits, no nothing. And I think it turned out really good. And that was something where my brother really helped us put together an awesome soundtrack. And we had negotiated with all these bands to use it for our festival run. And the bands were so cool. And then the few distributors that were interested in the film, rightfully so, wanted it for the soundtrack. And then when we went to go renegotiate for the distribution rights, we just couldn't get the money together for that soundtrack. So like going back and taking that music out and then like having to go, it just didn't make sense financially. So like I'm hoping that a distributor comes around at some point where we can kind of cobble together or like somehow like negotiate through and have the money to kind of release the film as I wanted to release it. But that was one of the most heartbreaking things to go through is, I mean, that's why with Peckerhead, like a lot of hard lessons learned from 2 Pints Lighter helped us to make that movie. But yeah, I mean, hopefully someday soon, I hope to get that out.
I think that's funny how many like movies and shows and stuff end up losing music. And then it's like, now it sounds wrong. Like apparently now if you try to watch Charmed, the original intro song is gone. It's something else now because they couldn't get rights. And you're like, but it doesn't sound right now. It sounds wrong. It sounds like there's something missing. And yeah, I don't think they understand how important the songs are and how much they move it. Like Uncle Peckerhead, I'm personally still waiting for the Duh soundtrack.
Oh, I know. Me too.
Yeah. Because I would check every few months to see like, did they do it yet? Did they? And you guys are like, yeah, we know. Okay.
No, I'm praying someday down the line. Maybe if we do a sequel, we'll be able to put out a double album or something. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, that would be amazing.
That's the hope. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know there's a few movies. I have a list that, because when he was looking for directors, he's like, I'm running out of names. I'm like, look at my list, man. I have a list of weird indie horror movies that was partially started because of this movie and the movie Suck. And I was like, yeah, reach out to those directors because I feel like those movies do not get the appreciation they deserve. Not enough people know about them. And part of why I thought to even slap them together into a list was because they were so interesting, such unique ideas, and the music was so good. So fun to listen to.
And that's like my best friend Jeff Riddle, who played Max in the movie. He's just like such a homie, and he's just like,
he seems like a delight.
Yeah, he seems like a nice person.
He's the absolute best, and he's just he's game for anything. Like, we did a short film together. I met him at like a house party in Philadelphia. My brother introduced us, and I mean, we spent all that whole night like just outside like riffing. Just like when you meet somebody and you're just like, you're locked in. So like I remember a couple of weeks after that, I was like, I want to make a movie with him. And I had my other friend Parker, and I wrote Jeff and I was like, hey, if I make this short film, will you be in it? And he was like, yeah. And it took me almost a year to get that film, like to raise the money to make it. And we did it. And after that, like anything, I was like, hey, I want to do a movie about a band. Would you write the music? And he just started demoing literally within like a week. And like I remember when he sent me Too High to Cry, that was the first thing he sent me. I think like a month into me just kind of floating it to him. And that completely that was like pouring gasoline on a fire because one, it was inspiration to like get the script done. Two, once we started like trying to get people to work for free or a very discounted rate, it was a way to kind of legitimize, like to not just send them a script, but to be like, this is real. This is something tangible. We have a band. The music fucking kicks. And Jeff was such an integral part of getting that movie made, but also like the movie itself, like just embodying, like that music makes the movie.
Yeah, it really does. And that was actually one of my questions is, are any of the actors musicians? Because as a drummer myself, I notice in movies a lot when you can clearly tell the drummer's not drumming if they're hitting the wrong things. But in this movie, I'm like, she looks like she's actually drumming. So Max is a musician. Are Mel and Judy, are they musicians like in real life too?
No, they're not. And that's of no insult to them. That's to talk about how both Chet, who plays Judy, and Ruby, who plays Mel, they took lessons. So like we were still this movie was made for under 80 grand. So like we didn't have a lot of money. So I asked if both of them would be game to taking like anywhere from 2 to 3 lessons. They had the songs that they could, play to the click track. But just, it was a mixture of, they totally threw themselves into it. And I remember like both Jeff and I talking to them and being like, this is punk music, it doesn't have to be perfect, so just put forth a lot of energy, try your best. And if we can get anywhere from like 5 to 10 seconds at a time of you locked in, hitting the right notes or, hitting the right tom or, being in the right fill, we're good. And to that point, they absolutely like crushed it. And they're just like, such a pleasure to work with. Both Chet and Ruby and Jeff were just like amazing. And what was like so cool about making that movie is it was kind of like an art imitating life or life imitating art, whatever, is for that entire shoot, we used Jeff's van, which is that ugly white van. And Jeff would drive the cast around. So he would drive around Chet, Ruby, and David, who played Peckerhead. And the 4 of them basically like ate together, traveled together. They stayed in two apartments right next to each other. They were really touring as a band would. So within like a day, they were like so tight knit. It was really like they were kind of like going, because we shot at, I forget how many locations we had, which was like mentally ill, but like 30 locations or something like that. And we were traveling all around New Jersey, all around like Eastern Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and all around Brooklyn. So like they were really doing kind of like little stints of like a tour. So it really was, I think that's like really how we got as quickly as we did to kind of like an authentic kind of dynamic between the 4 of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the way the characters interact with each other and the way the actors interact with each other, it feels very real. It's, because a lot of times you're like, this feels like a real conversation, but it doesn't feel like a conversation I could walk into. But this movie, like, yeah, I've heard conversations very similar to these, minus the killing. But, like, I've heard these conversations that, like, in similar ones that just feels very natural.
Well, yeah.
While still being really funny.
And to your point, that was one of my things here is the script and dialogue does feel so natural. It's like a conversation I'd have with my friends. And they're like so many scenes I love, but the one that really, like, the second I got locked into this movie was very early on, and it was when Scott is describing Judy's scones and he's praising her scones. That was the most hilarious shit ever. And then she walks out and one of them was like, I thought her scones tasted like shit. And it's just like, all right. I was like, I'm already locked into the comedy of this movie. It felt very natural, and especially the dynamic. And now that you mentioned that they were basically kind of touring together, behind the scenes, I mean, you have this great dynamic where Mel is just kind of this dark brooding, nothing matters, and then you have Max, who is so glass half full, teeming with optimism, and then you have Judy, who's like the voice of reason. So you have these three different dynamics that work so perfectly together, and I'm wondering, was that kind of always the intention, or did it just kind of work out that way because they were so tight-knit?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination. I always, like, when I was starting to kind of, draft out the script, I wanted it to feel like kind of a fucked up family dynamic. So I always imagined Judy would be the single mom, Max would be the little boy, Mel would be the moody teenager, and Uncle Peckerhead was just kind of like the fun uncle that kind of would like come in and like, maybe he had a few too many beers in him, maybe like he was a little too rough when they were wrestling, but like he's just like fun, like the kids love him when he shows up. So that was always there, but really, I mean, the cast like kind of like really leaned into it, and I think they were so collaborative and so like great with each other and great with the crew that, it just starts to kind of, it starts to take on a life of its own. So like, I basically gave them like a basic structure and framework, and I gave them the lines, but they really kind of like lived those characters and lived those dynamics.
You're leading me right to my next questions. This is great because I was just going to say, was there a strict script, or did they improvise a lot? Did you do a scene? Because sometimes directors will do like, all right, let's do the script and then let's do a kind of improvised one. Did you just kind of let them like have free range with some of the scenes?
I wish I could say yes. I just think there wasn't a lot of improving just because, Chet and Ruby especially came up through improv. They both were, especially Chet's like a big UCB person, incredibly talented, would absolutely trust them to improvise. Before the shoot, we only had 18 days and we were trying to we're knocking out anywhere from 5 to 10 pages a day, which is insane, while we're doing like 3 different company moves per day. So it's just like the way in which we were making this movie just did not allow, like, basically, like by the time, like if we're doing, for example, like what was crazy when we did the diner scene, which is like kind of a long dialogue scene where basically he's giving some exposition into kind of, his backstory and his lore. But it's like pretty easy. It's just kind of like, for the most part, a reverse shot. When we got there, we had been kind of like, that was our last shoot for the day. And we were like hemorrhaging time and we only had like 2 hours to do it. So we had to light it, create our first setup. And then we had a couple, by the time we got to David's reverse, we only had the guy that owned the diner was like, listen, y'all have to be out in 20 minutes. So David did his in one take. Wow. What you see there is a single, is a broken up take. We cut it up, but it's his only take of that. I would have loved to give such a talented cast free reign to do a fun one or a fun couple afterwards. I know the film would even be, better than, people say it is. But it just, the time didn't allow. As a huge fan, I'm a huge fan of comedy. I feel like, I'm just as much in kind of the comedy world as the horror world in terms of my interests and who I follow and just what I watch and devour. So I would love to do something where it's a little more loose, where I'm not I just feel like even with like Bloody Axe Wound, like when you only have 18 days, and in terms of my scripts, they're so like I'm not saying this as like false humility, but they're so ambitious. Like I feel like sometimes I wish I had stripped down and like not had quite so much in it, because when you only have 18 days and you're trying to knock out so many pages per day, you really have to, like they'll change a line, they'll like iterate on kind of how they say something, where to lay something in, like beats, rhythm, pacing. But like we just didn't have time to kind of like explore a scene and try and really milk the comedy for all it's worth.
That's fair. I mean, 18 days, that is extremely tight to get an entire movie done.
Yeah.
We just did our first short little...
Well, we're halfway through.
Yeah, we just did our yeah, thank you. We just did our first little horror short comedy, and yeah, we 2 days. We were like, we'll be able to get it done in 2 days, and we're like, no, we have to do like 2-3 more days of shooting. We can't get this done.
But around 3 a.m. day 2, when everybody just looks like they've died and their bodies are still moving, we're like, okay, so we're gonna have to do like another day.
Yeah, so 18 days for an entire movie, especially with a level of just how it looked, the practical effects. That's impressive to do in 18 days.
You say those reverse shots of one way, the other way shots are easy. They did not feel easy while we were doing those.
It was a learning experience for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like the more experience I get making movies, and the more you realize that a lot of it's, like you need to be prepared. You need to have a really good group of people working together, having kind of like a focused vision. You need kindness, you need patience, you need the ability to like adapt and pivot on a moment's notice, but also you need a ton of luck. And that's why, like even like now I feel like I always just love movies. I'm not a harsh critic even going through film school, but now especially like going through like such hell during certain shoots or just certain days of shooting, when I see a movie that just doesn't, nail it or like, is very flawed. I just have like a much kinder like approach to like, I don't know what happened to them. I don't know what they went through. Right. I'm just happy they got it in. I'm happy they got it done.
When you finally try to make your own movie, you're like, oh, yeah, no, I could see why I could have a hard time doing that. Yeah, no. Yeah. And like you saying you had so many people that were willing to work for cheap. Our entire crew was made up of people that we either asked nicely or voluntold they were coming to work. And we're like, hey, you're going to be doing this. And one actor who is very kind, he's already done several of his own director projects, who was like, yeah, I'll come and work. We're like, thank God we don't have any friends that can act.
As much as I like to think I could do it, I get in front of a camera. No, I need to be the one doing the camera work. So much better behind the camera than
very
I am
happy
in front
directing in the background.
Yeah.
I'll be back here.
So I would like to, speaking on kind of just characters here, I want to talk about how, so you obviously, Max's real name again was?
Jeff Riddle.
So you met him at a party and you guys became friends. So how did you kind of get in, and especially the dude playing Uncle Peckerhead, where did you find these people?
David.
Because David was, I don't know, there was just something so like warm about him, but
very
also
homey personality.
But I was also terrified of him. Like, where did he come from? Because he really hasn't done like too many things, and I'm like, he's got to do more because he's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, David's one of my favorite people to work with. He's just like now a very close friend. I love him to death. So with Jeff was the only person I knew prior to pre-production. We did casting. So we cast for Judy, Mel, and Peckerhead. Judy, I had known, I didn't know Chet personally, but I used to go to UCB shows all the time. So when she came across, during the casting process, I knew her. I knew that she was really funny. So when she came in and read, it clicked and she was it. So actually her manager, said, I have a few other people that I think might fit this Mel role. So he sent, one of them was Ruby. So Chet and Ruby, I'm not sure if they're still represented by the same guy, but he put us on to Ruby, and Ruby came in and just killed it. And she was perfect. For finding Dave, it was really tough because I knew that the whole movie kind of hinged on that character. And when we did like a couple of full casting days just for that role. So meaning like one of our producers was going to school in the city. So we got like a room in their academic building for, a couple of weekends. The one weekend that we were casting for Peckerhead, I mean, literally probably saw upwards of 100 people. Wow. And most of them were doing bad Joe Dirt impressions, really, really bad. I'm not, no shade on Joe Dirt, but that's not what you're looking for. Character. Yeah, that's not the character that we're trying to bring. So it was crazy. So it came to this time where we were set to shoot in like a month and a half. We had set the dates, and I was, and it was like completely self-funded by myself, and my wife threw in some money too. She helped to produce the movie and was production designer, wardrobe. But the other producers and like even the other crew were like, you need to move on this. And I was like, I don't want to like piss away money doing like, like having this center around a poor Joe Dirt impression. So we put out like just another call, just saying like, we're going to do one more in person, but send like self-tape and send it in. David was in somewhere in Florida doing a play, but he lived in New York. He saw the casting call and he sent in a tape. And when I tell you that, like, I remember like where I was when one of the producers texted me his self-tape, and I watched it, and it's like he did exactly what you see in the movie. And I was like, we have to get this guy up. We have to get this guy up right now. And when he came up so late into the casting that we just threw Chet, Jeff, and Ruby into the thing with him. We had him, just met him, and then we were like, can you just do like we want to see what the dynamic is with these three people we have cast. And they did it, and it was perfect. It was just like, I mean, it's one of those things that as soon as you see it, you're like, that there's still so many weeks of things that can go wrong, right? That like, the contract might not go through, his manager may be an absolute dick. The timing may not work out. There may be a couple days he can't do that. We can't move those days. So we can't, all these things. So you're just like, you're just like holding your breath, praying that this guy can do it. And David did it, and he was like, I mean, when I say a pleasure to work with, and he was like the person that, would get the last setup. So he'd only have a couple of takes, and he ended up being like that guy. Like, I'm not, I love baseball, but I'm not a huge sports fan, but the person that you want the ball in their hands in the final seconds. He's just like incredibly dependable. And just like, I had never worked with somebody, that long, because he was there, I think, almost every day. I'd never worked with kind of an older actor that, even though he doesn't have a lot of film credits, he's a huge stage, not a huge, he has a lot of experience on stage. He's more of a theater guy. Oh, okay. And I was just worried that he'd look at me, because I was much younger at the time, that he's like this fucking little kid making his movie. He'd be just this cantankerous, like, kind of crank. And he was the exact opposite of what I was worried about. He's such a lovely guy. He's the lovely part of Peckerhead, and he's just that good of an actor that he can do that menacing part.
I totally agree with that Joe Dirt thing, though, because no one's going to stick around with a dude that turns into a demon every night if he's unpleasant. And like, I even told him, I'm like, why is Judy got to keep being so mean to him? He is a delight. And it's not like he's doing it on purpose. Jeez.
He's not choosing to turn into this demon for 13 minutes every night at midnight.
I was like, I'm over here like, I will apologize for him all day long. He's so sweet and kind to them, for people he barely knows. You're like, I want to hang out with him. He's so nice.
I love that moment, too, when they're deciding whether to keep him. And Judy's like, we have to go, get in the van, we're leaving. And then Max is like, he didn't mean it. It's fine. Like, no problem. And even Mel was like on Max's side. It's just so funny how they were like, we just saw him kill people. And they're like, well, I mean, he's not doing it to us. So
it's fine. It's fine. Or like when she tries to get the keys from him and he's like, you almost got me there.
Almost got me.
It could have easily turned into the direction of like, hey, you want violence? I can do violence. He's like, nice try, little lady. Let's go.
Yeah, he was such a great character. And I know he's described, the IMDb summary describes him as a demon, but he kind of, I don't know, he vibes like a vampire in a way. So
because it's at night.
Yeah, because it's at night and he's got, his hands change, his face changes. So what exactly, what exactly is he? And my wife also had a question of where did you come up with the at 12 for 13 minutes? Because that's like so different than anything. So specific, so different. We love that. We love it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I always just thought of him as a monster. That's I think that's how he's described in the script. I always I just was kind of I wanted to do like a monster movie, and I'm not sure like where, because people say demon, cannibal. I mean, so, like it's kind of like a mix of like a bunch of kind of like lore or just kind of like elements of certain things. I always just thought of him as like kind of a monster that had yet to be defined yet.
I love that.
But as far as the lore, I mean, I have to credit my wife for that. Like in the first few drafts, it was like just. I was kind of overwhelming it with like, too many rules of like how he operated. And she was just like, have just a few things, just like ground the audience in something, but don't spend too much time. Like this is supposed to be fun. You don't want to like build too much into this. So, I mean, I think I forget how like that just came. I think probably like I had midnight already, and then like I was like, just have one more thing that just like tells us how he gets out of it, or like how he comes out of it, and just like let that be it. And I think that note absolutely helped to transform it, where we didn't like just completely it just kind of slow the rhythm and the pace of the story down with having to kind of spend 10 minutes giving like this crazy on the nose exposition of like what he's about, what the rules are, how to like all these things. It's just like, this is what it is. Here's a quick way to get in, to understand what it's about. Here's a quick way to kind of just like orient and anchor the audience in kind of the world of this monster, and then like let's just kind of continue to have fun with it.
Yeah, which I think is amazing, because you can convolute it so easily, and just to throw it at the audience, well, I turned into this at midnight for 13 minutes and then that's it. It's like, for me, I can accept that. No problem. Like, all right, that's good enough for me. I don't really need this big backstory of lore. It's just because it just felt fresh and new, where it's like, I don't need to question it. If you establish that he was a vampire, then you'd have to go into, okay, well, what hurts him, what doesn't hurt him, and all this stuff. But just to define him as this monster for 13 minutes is like, yeah, I'm good with that.
Which is funny. I think Austin's got vampires on the brain because we just did a episode on Lost Boys, so they vamped out. So he's probably just thinking of that makeup.
And we just watched John Carpenter's Vampires.
Yeah, so he's just got the vamped out makeup in mind. But no, I think you give the exact right amount of details you need for him, especially because like, my name's Peckerhead, and they're like, dude, what do you mean? And then like my dad called me that, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
So you like immediately get this vibe of, this is probably why he's extra nice to other people. Like a compensation.
Yeah, and for all the cast, especially like Peckerhead, I had written kind of like literally like a 5-page document of their life leading up to that moment where they meet. So like for David, like I had all that lore written, and I felt like it would be, I didn't want it to go to waste, so I just was like, hey, this is like how I imagined you became what you did. This is what your life was like, prior to kind of being this, traveling kind of vagrant type character with a van. So there are things that like, especially like I have an idea, I've written out a treatment for the sequel where I'd love to kind of like examine him a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, like that's something is just like, for the first introduction to kind of like, this titular character in a horror movie. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I wanted to simplify it. And that note just came from somebody like looking at kind of like this, like you said, this convoluted type of like approach to introducing what should be just like a fun, crazy character.
I think that's really important to, especially smaller movies. Like sometimes the backstory gets so big that you spend most of your time on the backstory. It's like, nah, you know what? Sometimes the best approach is just to go along for the ride. We don't need to dig in. We just need to go.
Yeah. Because especially they don't establish him as anything besides like, it says man-eating demon. Like, That's it. You
Perfect.
you don't
Got it.
establish him as like a vampire or as a certain creature that we already know. Take it how you will. And the description, sometimes simpler is better. And like I said, when I heard that, I was like, sure. It's like, that's all I need. That's fun. That's new. That's original. And you don't need this whole explanation. But talking about Peckerhead, there's that. I wanted to go back to what you were saying when you were talking about how, oh, my name's Peckerhead, and everyone's like, really? I think one of my favorite little just moments with Mel is when he's like, y'all can call me Peck, and she's like, no, I'm gonna call you Peckerhead. Just like, all right, Mel.
The whole thing.
It's like, okay, Mel. So yeah, but I do love movies based around music. I feel like with horror movies, there's just not enough of them. I know we have, you've got Deathgasm, you've got, there's a few other ones that are based in metal or whatever, but this one, having a punk band, and the music is really good, and it's nice to know that the music was written for this movie. I think that's amazing. Some of my favorite things I noticed, because I watch movies with subtitles because I'm deaf and I can't hear shit. Some of I don't know who's in control of these, if you guys did them or if Amazon did, but some of the descriptions for the music that was playing was amazing. Like, one was big sludgy music. Another one was loud, angry punk. Another one was, how do I say that word again? Ruckus music. It was so funny to describe the music because I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. So
big sludgy is a special.
Yeah. Big sludgy. Yeah, that's a good one.
That was us. In order to get the movie ready, in order to get the movie ready for distribution, we actually, I remember during the pandemic, I was doing the subtitles because this was before like AI programs existed where you could just like feed your movie and it would basically like churn out the subtitles. So I remember. I actually was going through there's like a special type of code that you have to do every few seconds for stuff like that. So I remember spending like every day for maybe 4 or 5 days doing the subtitals for Uncle Peckerhead.
Hey, thanks for making the effort because the subtitles we read now are like, that's not even remotely what they've said. Who's typing this?
I think that what he just said.
It's probably the AI.
I guess it's the AI because we have noticed an uptick with subtitles lately where they will paraphrase, they will change words. And I'm like, did we just slip into another timeline of existence? Because I've never noticed this until now, but it's got to be the creation.
It is AI.
Oh, yeah. No, I tried to watch an anime that was dubbed so I could actually just listen to it. And then I looked over at the subtitles and the subtitles were like a mishmash of the words they were saying. I'm like, I can't look at that. So that's horrible. It's like they're saying the same sentence, but wildly different.
Well, thank you for putting in the time and effort and making those fun little things here and there.
It didn't go unappreciated.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, because that's just how I am when I'm watching movies and there's like a sound happening on screen and there's just these overly just definitive things happening in the subtitles. I'm like, I appreciate that. I love stupid shit, so...
Wow. Yeah, and my mother-in-law is deaf, so I mean we actually took a lot of. I realized how important it is for deaf and hard of hearing people. Yeah, yeah. So we take a lot of care into doing for our making sure our subtitles are as spot on as they can be.
Which is so important anyway, because if you literally have to have those to know what's going on, and they're just wildly misphrasing everything,
right?
Or shout out to every movie where the big reveal line pops up before the actual thing happens.
Oh my God.
The worst.
It's
that's
me,
the worst.
Dave. Okay.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, great.
Dave ain't on screen, but sure.
I know.
The worst. So you said you were getting that set before it distributed, and I know Dread Central came in to distribute this. So was this something that kind of got shopped around and they picked it up, or did they see it at a festival and decide to come in to distribute it?
Yeah, I mean, it was just. I wouldn't say perfect. Perfect timing is a really fucked up way to frame it. So we had a really nice festival circuit lined up, and we started with Panic Fest in Kansas City, which is a great festival. I think they moved it to April or May. When we went, I think it was late January or early February. So we played that festival. We met somebody from Dread. We talked to them they were really cool. We talked to them at the festival. They seemed really interested, and then that kind of fell off. That was January 2020. So then March 2020 comes, the pandemic happens, and literally we were up to play 12 festivals for the spring and summer. All of those festivals were canceled, with the exception of like we did Calgary Underground did a drive-in. There were we did a couple drive-ins, but basically our festival run was wiped, and we were like freaking out. Like I was like, this is it. Like I was like in the red. I had this movie that had played one festival, and it got like some really nice buzz there, but like, you kind of want you want to kind of gain momentum. Yeah. And it just completely went nowhere. So then I forget when it was, like maybe like a couple of months in the pandemic, they actually reached back out to us, and they were like, hey, the world stopped. We're looking to release some movies this summer. Would you be interested? So, we ended up going, because I just wanted to get the movie out. I figured like the pandemic was, I don't know if it was the good move to make or not, but like the pandemic, I knew people were going to be home. So I was hoping that like, the faster we got it out, the quicker the movie could get watched and maybe get some attention. So yeah, like we ended up, I think we started talking to them in June, and then we released it by like mid-August. I think August 18th, 2020, we released it somewhere around there. So it was kind of like like a complete, like we cratered into like a real low point. But then I was really happy that we were able to kind of salvage it and get it released. And I think we did get like even for our little movie, I'm with you. I wish more people, I'm happy that more people continue to discover it. I hope more people kind of come around. But I feel like we did have like a nice little kind of surge because, all of our friends and family were kind of like really pushing it during that time, because everybody was just home and kind of, like really helping us to kind of champion the movie.
We actually sure we rent. Didn't we rent? Right?
No. Pretty sure what happened is, how some on the TVs they'll just like have ads for random movies pop up.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was one of those, and I was like, "What is that? I don't even know what that is. We're gonna watch it." Which that's actually happened a few times, because what is it? Chompy and the Girls was another one, I think.
Chompy and the Girls. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I'm pretty much sold. Oh yeah, it was wacky.
Wacky.
That's on the list too.
Yeah,
but it was like pretty much anything with a weird title and an interesting poster. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch that. That's fine.
Right. Yeah, and this had this had a fantastic poster. Because was this the poster this was the poster that was basically on streaming, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's the poster that Dread, like we collaborated with them in that we were giving notes and kind of told them what we wanted. But yeah, that's the one that they designed for distribution and release.
Yeah, so we saw that and we were like, okay, this sounds great.
I immediately started stocking for merchandise after.
Yeah. And like lo and behold, you found merchandise, you got the merchandise. One day we'll get the LP, because we collect LPs like every now and again, but like but we were like, we have to have that because the music was so good. How many original songs were written for the movie? I didn't even think about that question until now.
I'm trying to think. I think how many made it? I think maybe like 7 or 8 made it. I think a lot of them made it, and there's definitely one that I love that didn't make it in just because we didn't want to shoehorn it, and it would have felt like a little shoehorned. And that was one that like would have made it on the proper LP, and I think it's like I think it's one of the best things Jeff's written. So yeah, I mean, that's why, and I'm hoping, because Jeff, occasionally will write something and he's like, what do you think? Would this be like a Dust song? So I'm hoping someday. I'm with you both. I hope that LP comes someday. But I think there's probably like 6 or 7 that are properly in it. Maybe just like a fraction of that song, because like there's moments where it's just like them kind of playing the like instrumental outro to something. But I think only one song that he had written, no piece of it made its way into the movie. Yeah.
So now, as a punk rocker yourself, and the band being a punk rocker, so do you personally have something against metalheads, or was that just kind of?
I was like, this whole scene feels very personal.
I feel attacked right now,
especially the way Peck just goes, metalheads.
Yeah. And then it comes on screen. What happened to the metalhead?
Yeah. No, I mean, I love metal. Like some of my best friends are metalheads. But yeah. No, I mean, like, so the Metalheads in a Parking Lot is one. It's a reference to this band Slapstick, which was like a ska punk band from Chicago in the mid '90s. That like kind of influenced like every ska punk band that came afterward. But the other thing is, I remember when I was a kid, because I grew up in New Jersey in the suburbs, is that like when my mom would take us to like pick up a pizza on a Friday night and would like just run in to go pick it up, and my brother and I would just be kind of in the passenger seat just waiting because the car would be running, listening to music, and you'd look out and there would be like just metalheads just hanging out and thrashing in the parking lot. Sorry, my ringer went off.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, just metalheads just hanging out in the parking lot.
Where else?
Just like and I remember when you're 7 years old and you've never seen like teenagers look like that and behave like that. It's like it's kind of like like being a little kid at the zoo for the first time and seeing an elephant or something. You're just like, what is this?
It's just a bunch of people who are.
So I was just like, I was always fascinated with just going back to kind of like those suburban Jersey roots of just like two kids with like a 12-pack of beer, just kind of like going off on Master of Puppets or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that so much.
The way you wrote some of the guys they interact with, and like two of like the side characters, had me absolutely screaming.
Who's
like
the douchey pretentious guy with the mohawk?
Like she gives him a cigarette, he takes the entire pack, and he's like, yeah, well, we need the bigger room because we're all men. That and her whole experience
sense.
with Nick, the really hot guy, is just like, I felt all of this. Like, did you get a woman in on that? Because I'm like, this is such a female experience, and you absolutely crushed it. I'm like, this hurts me like on a visceral level.
Well, yeah, I mean, the band that I toured and released a record with, we had two women in the band.
Oh.
So like just from that you get to see kind of because it was like, especially at the time in which we were touring, it was the mid-aughts. Which was, I mean, it's still not the kindest time to women, but I mean, back then, especially in certain music scenes or like certain legs of our tour, like I felt that like my guy band member friends were treated way different than the gals, and what they would have to suffer through was just a completely different ball game. So I was definitely pulling from just kind of like just a spectator or a friend, just hearing about how fucking tragic those experiences were for them. And it was like we were on the same leg of the tour, we were just playing different instruments, and we just had different different organs.
Like absolutely nailed that. Like you can just hear Judy screaming internally, just like.
And the invoice for the Plan B.
That was amazing.
That fucking sent me to the moon. I was like,
know people who would 100% do that. I know girls who would be like, yeah. Now you're gonna go ahead and pay up for that because what you did was bullshit.
Yeah, such good comedy in this. I'll like just, and it's funny too because some movies can start off really funny and then kind of taper off, but this had comedy just through the entire thing where I was just rolling laughing. Even on the second watch, I appreciated it even more on the second watch, which is why I love to revisit movies, because I liked it the first time just fine, but this time I was like, man, this is working for me like so much, and I really love. That's why we wanted to have you on to talk about this, because it is just so much fun. And other things that I wanted to mention that I loved about this movie. Who came up with all the hilarious band names like Queef Queens and Marshmallow Dicks? Like
Marshmallow Dicks is a local artist.
Okay, Marshmallow Dicks is a local artist. I apologize, but those names all of Queef Queen's albums too. Their titles were just so over the top. Did you guys just sit around at a round table, have some beers, and just chuck out wild names?
I mean, I have a notes app that is just band names, like funny band names. So like that's just something I do for fun.
Okay.
I mean, like my notes app like probably reads like the ramblings of a mad person, because like when I'm writing scripts, like I'll just have like a funny line of dialogue or just a funny name of a character.
Okay.
So I'll just have like these different kind of topics, and I'll just start to kind of like fill it in. And like for a lot of it, I don't know where it's going to go. I'm just like, this would be so funny that like, you know, a mayor with this last name, or like, you know, this type of thing. So I'll just like, I just have it there. And then when I'm really starting to kind of like, you know, iterate on a new idea, I'll go back and I'll be like, does any of this track? Will any of this kind of like, you know, lock in? Yeah, so that's where, I mean, I had my buddy and I, like, you know, just like kind of like text threads with friends is like, we'll just kind of start to riff on, you know, just the names of the members in a group and just how ridiculous they can be. So yeah, I mean, I love that type of stuff. I could waste so much time doing that.
And I mean, it's funny though, because, you know, it's like, they sound made up, but also, you know, that there are bands that have very similar names. So you also know it's a touch of reality in there too.
You've got a Dying Fetus is a real band. So Queef Queen's not that far off, you know? Not at all.
It's like no one would have that name, or would they?
Or would they? So is that kind of what happened with Peckerhead? Is that just something you had in your notes, like this would be funny, and just use that?
Yeah, I mean, with Peckerhead, I'm trying to remember, because I had a friend ask me recently when we reconnected, you know, where that name came from. I think, you know, for any movie that I make, I feel like I am always looking for something that, one, grabs somebody's attention, and two, like if I plug it into Google, there's literally no search return for that name. Okay. So I think for Uncle, like I knew what we were talking about with the family dynamic, I knew I wanted him to be an uncle, and I just wanted some type of like some crass name that kind of like grabbed your attention, because I wanted that to be the title of the movie. So I think I was just like that came up, and I was like, oh, and like I like that you can do shorthand, so it's not like you always have to kind of like hit on that name, that you could call him Peck, and that's kind of like that kind of is a nice shorthand that you're not constantly ringing that kind of crass bell. But I forget like how exactly that kind of came to be.
Yeah, it still feels real for me personally, because my uncle calls my mother Pissant. So, and she's headed towards 60. She's still getting called Pissant.
Oh my God.
Oh man, I do love another thing, because I did just write down some things I love that I wanted to mention. One of the other bits I loved was when you first meet Peck, and they put the flyer on the window, and they're like, "All right, this is the last one, guys, last one." And you know, Max kisses it. They throw it on the windshield, and then they walk behind the van, and without getting out of the van to grab the flyer, he just pops out of the back with it. And I was like, this is the type of humor that I love so much. It's just so wacky and silly, and they're like, oh my God, keep walking. So you wrote all of this, right? Did you have any co-writers with you, or was this all you?
Yeah, this was all me. And that's, I mean, it warms my heart hearing what y'all love about it. Cause that was the goal, is I want to make like live action cartoons. So like, that's like, I mean, and I like, you know, even watching it now, like you kind of have your director, your scrutinizing eyes on it, is I'm just like, you know, there are moments where I'm like, oh, we could have just like, without like spending any more money or spending any more time, we could have just like amped that joke up a little bit more, like made that moment just a little bit more physical and just surreal and out there. I'm working on a new script now that like is kind of like in that world. It's about a band, and it's more of like a possession movie. But I'm just like, I'm trying to go balls to the wall and make it like very kind of Scott Pilgrim-y, like very kind of like frenetic, kind of cartoony, just like really. Hopefully, if we have the budget, like just kind of firing on all cylinders, so it's like just nonstop, you know, just like kind of cartoon energy to it.
Well, I'm already on board.
Yeah, I was, because before we hopped on to do the podcast today, I told my wife, I was like, you know, Uncle Peckerhead is like Green Room, except like just way funnier and with less Nazis. It just reminds me of Green Room, except it's not depressing, and I don't feel sad after I watch Green Room.
Yeah, so you said that, I'm like, oh.
Does it
What?
not? I mean, does it not vibe like a comical green room with a fun ending as opposed to a bleak ending?
I have a hard time connecting comedy to green room, period. So,
all right, maybe that's just how I relate to things. No, but I just love the traveling band in a van, and it's just a fun story because especially how they lose their van in the beginning, it gets repoed, and then they're like, "Fuck, now we have to find a van," and of course the one van that hits them up is Uncle Peck. I mean, you can't turn that guy down. He's just too nice, even though he lives in that van. And
not his van.
Not his van. Yeah, it's like, this isn't your van. What?
I think that's the part where everybody got like, whoa. Bridge too far.
Yeah,
like,
but
he's killed so many people. It's the van being stolen is the problem.
Yeah, the van being stolen's a problem. Killing the people that were dicks to you, I think we can let that one slide.
Well, they were unpleasant, so.
And speaking of all the killings and the dead bodies, I mean the practical. Let me tell you, as a horror fan, obviously practical effects are just so much better than CG, and I just want to commend the incredible practical effects. I mean, you've got like broken up bodies at the beginning. You've got I think the opening shot is of a guy with like his face kind of stretched open. You've got a spinal cord rip out. I mean, oh my God. Good. And then of course you have this scene where he shits all over everybody, which was
upsetting.
That was a little much for me, but I was like, but it was so funny. I was like, okay, I kind of like this.
I mean, that's our effects guy, Jared Balog, who since that was the first time I worked with him, but since then we've worked on a few music videos together. Bloody Axe was my latest feature film. And he's amazing. And that's like, that's just something where Jared is always game. Always will bring your weirdest ideas to life. And especially for Uncle Peckerhead, like it's similar to David. Like those were the two areas that were so important and we just couldn't find the right person. We had reached out to a bunch of effects houses and they quoted us basically our budget, more than our budget of the entire movie.
See, that's why you have to make it
And
yourself.
I remember talking to the last effects house and the guy was really nice. He loved the script. And I was like, basically I told them I wish we could afford you, but we can't. We're desperate to make this movie. I don't want to insult you and be like, can you work for free or not for free, but can you work for a quarter of our budget? And he was like, I have this guy that freelances with us sometimes. He's trying to strike it on his own. He's trying to start his own company. Maybe if you pay for supplies and, just a decent but low day rate, he'll do it. He connected us with Jared and Jared was he's the best. He's cool as a cucumber, just rolls with whatever. And just he is so tickled by the sickest shit that I love. He's such a sweet, you wouldn't know it meeting him. He's such a sweet guy, but anything, the weirdest stuff, he just kind of takes to, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. And anything where you're like, we can't do that. We can't do that. Right. We only have this much money. He's like, no, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. I mean, Jared just, and I'm with you, practical effects, even though we didn't really have much of a budget here, I couldn't, and that's why we kind of tried to strategically choose our spots in the movie for those kind of big set pieces, because I knew we could only afford 4 or 5 moments. So we just had to be very smart in how we did it and where we did it. And Jared was just I think he came on that last week and he just absolutely, he killed it. And he was just and you're also looking just for somebody that is both really talented and good at what they do, but also can just live on a set like that, where we were DIY, very kind of run and gun, kind of scrappy crew. And he fit right in. He's such and his team's great. He brought his friend Sean on, who also worked a few days on Bloody Axe. And they were just such great, really kind of absolute pleasures to work with, professional, just wonderful people.
Yeah, I looked him up because I've been watching Face Off, and I'm now every time I'm who did the makeup? Because apparently I know recognize a lot more makeup artist work than I thought I did. So I looked it up. I'm damn, this man's been working. He's been doing so many things. He just did the Parenting and Companion, and we're wow, that's crazy. man's been busy.
Even before Uncle Peckerhead, he did stuff for Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Mr. Robot. Then he would go on to do stuff for Black Friday, House of Darkness, Walking Dead spinoff, American Horror Story, Smile 2, Companion. I'm like, wow. I was like, that is such a good grab of you guys to get because the effects just look so good. And I do think they are very perfectly paced because you open with something very bloody and gory, and then the amount of times that you get a bloody and gory kill are just spaced out enough to where it's not all front loaded and then it's not all happening at the end. It's a very good... It keeps you like, okay, I'm ready for the next kill at this point.
It progresses upwards.
Yeah, because that one, the metalhead is obvious. That's my favorite because he doesn't just rip the head off. The spinal cord comes with it, and you're like, ooh, I like that little extra touch.
It's like when you're trying to peel the, like a clementine, and you want to get the middle piece out with it.
Yeah. Like, oh, this just all came out together.
I say that. It's all I was thinking of. We've been feeding our toddler oranges for days. So when that happened, I'm like, oh, it's like that.
It's like that, just less horrifying. I guess the last thing I have is just because I noticed it said based on a true story at the beginning. I figured this probably wasn't based on a true story. It was just to add to the comedy. So was this actually inspired by some story or something that you had heard, or was that just to be like, hey, we're just being funny?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was just supposed to land as it. You're right. It just was meant for a joke. I thought it'd be funny to say based on a true story, and then to see a guy's jaw get ripped off in like in the first 5 seconds when you come into it. But like, it did feel like we could also like claim it was a true story because man-eating monster aside, all those tour stories of being paid $2 by a shitty bar owner, literally like sleeping with the handsome himbo, or not the hand, that's redundant, but it's sleeping with the himbo and he ends up being a total tool. I mean, all those things I experienced while on tour with my band in the mid-aughts. So like I thought it was kind of a cheeky way to like both have that like stark juxtaposition of the joke of the based on a true story and the first image you see, but then also like all of the tour stories in there like either happened to me or my bandmates or like a friend of mine that was on tour.
Okay, so then there you go. Yeah, some of it is based on true events, true stories, and then you have the man-eating demon who may or may not be real. We'll just leave it like that.
Yeah, I actually just went to a show last week to see Shannon and the Clams, and so good.
One of my favorite. One of my absolute favorites.
Yes, we love them.
Absolutely love them.
We love them.
And we were like 12 feet away somehow. We were like so close. But my friend tagged along with me, and the band that was opening, he's like, what must it be like for them? I'm like, you need to watch Uncle Peckerhead because the band experience feels like exactly what these people are probably experiencing, minus the killing.
Who opened for them? Was it what's their names? It's the 3-piece with the 2 chicks and
Being
the guy.
Dead.
Being Dead.
Yeah,
yes, I love that new album.
Yeah,
yes,
I just started listening to them because I was like, oh, cause I hadn't heard of them before. And it's funny, I'd only heard of Shannon and the Clams because they had a song in a Netflix movie. And then they opened for the Black Keys, and we happened to be at that show. And I was like,
he's produced all of their stuff, I think, recently too. One of the guys from the Black Keys. Yeah. I mean, I love that whole world of groups. But Shannon and the Clams, I love. I've seen them since. Good. I mean, I've tried to go to every show that they play around here if I'm here.
Same.
That's awesome.
They just toured, and I was like, why not Florida? Why not come to Florida? And then they're like, now we're doing a Florida tour. I'm like, we're going. I don't care how much money.
Yeah. That's just how it is for some reason. Either tours completely just avoid Florida as a whole, which I get it. Trust me, I understand. We live here. I understand if you want to avoid it. Or they'll go to like 4 fucking different stops, like Tampa, Miami, Orlando, Tallahassee, and you're like, what is this weird thing? So yeah.
But it was awesome.
One of the best shows I've been to in the past few years is my wife and I went to LA not this past January, but last January. And while we were there, I was like, I really want to go to a show. So we were like looking at the Echo and all these places just to see what was on. And Shannon Shaw was doing her solo record with a full band. And it was like one of the most, because I mean, I was like, it was like a small venue too. I forget which venue it was, but it was like maybe like a 500 cap theater. And it was so, I mean, her voice is like haunting, but she had like 3 backup singers. It was like a full ass band.
Wow.
And I was just like, it was, you know, nobody talked the entire fucking performance. It was just jaw dropping, like just kind of like, it was like, I assume like as a non-religious person, what it's like to really be moved in church or something like that. It was just like, it was crazy.
Well, and especially with everything that had happened with her fiance, like Muna's in the wrong places. It's like every song you're just like, oh God, my heart.
Yeah.
They're so great though. Absolutely love them.
I love her.
Yes.
I loved all of them. Yeah.
I love this. So real quick, if we want to just kind of mention your new movie, we can promote that since it is on Shudder. Where'd you go?
I don't know.
You left.
I went somewhere.
Okay, I can still hear you. So yeah, Bloody Axe Wound. I think it like recently dropped, right? Like this month, I think.
Yeah, in March. Yeah, it dropped probably like a month ago, maybe a little less than a month ago. Yep, on Shudder.
So check that out if you have Shudder. It's also on AMC Plus if you want to check it out. It is a slasher movie with equally as good practical effects, equally as good comedic moments. I mean, you even have Jeffrey Dean Morgan pop up in that one, and the main actress. Also, I really, really loved Eddie Levi in that.
Oh my God, yeah.
My God. I think we all have a friend that's just kind of that level of goofy and silly. But he was great.
He was hysterical,
He was so funny. Always just ready to show up and be the actor was so great. And we really enjoyed that one as well. So definitely check that out. And you said, I know if you can't talk about anything, that's totally fine, but do you have anything in the works that we could be looking forward to?
Yeah. No, I mean, yes, I do. I have like a bunch of scripts that I'm trying like this summer is going to be the summer that we're going to try to kind of pitch and get something made.
Sweet.
But if that doesn't happen, then it's going to be, you know, DIY kind of bootstrapping it, maybe like next summer. So I definitely like, I'm going to be turning 42 this year. So my goal is before I'm 45 to have another film ready to go.
Excellent.
So I'm hoping that something comes together. I have a bunch of projects I have kind of like just a comedy noir that's like kind of like I could do for a small budget. I have another just kind of in the world of Uncle Peckerhead that I would love to make. Jeff's like said, like he's down to write music. That would be a little bit bigger of a budget because it's like a bigger ensemble movie, lots of music, lots of big set pieces. And then just like a bunch of other stuff like Peckerhead 2, we would love to do. Everybody like really wants to do it. It's just like having the money to make it, like having just really kind of making sure that we're able to do it right. Cause it's a bigger idea, not like, 10 or 20 million, but like, just something that like we couldn't do it for like the 80 grand that we did it, how long, like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
There's a bunch.
And that's something that, we all respect. It's like, if you want to do it, you want to make sure you're doing it right with the proper budget and all that stuff. So yeah, it's like, we will wait for that. All I've got is time to wait for Uncle Peckerhead 2. Ideally, since COVID won't, happen again, maybe it'll get like a theatrical.
Don't worry, we got bird flu. It's fine.
Maybe it'll get a small theatrical run, but yeah, we're looking excited to the future of all of your movies. Where can people find you on social media if they want to keep up with you and just find all your movies and all that jazz?
Sure. I think the best place to check out is subtletrx.com. That's our filmmaking collective.
Perfect.
It's run by my wife and I, but like our friend Jeff that is involved, David's involved. It's basically like our crew and people that we often like cast in our movies. And that kind of like tells you about movies that we're hoping to make, movies that are coming out, stuff of that sort. But I'm a bit of a Luddite. I do have a social media. I have Kid Dynamat on Instagram. I used to be on X a lot more, or Twitter, as Young Bull, but I don't really check that as often. So I'd say if you're looking for me on social media, probably Kid Dynamat on that. But Subtle T-Rex is really where, we update, a bit, and you'll get to read about projects and news and all that good stuff.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, Matt, on this episode. Appreciate your time. Love Uncle Peckerhead. We'll just keep our fingers crossed for more Uncle Peckerhead or anything from you in the future. If you enjoy the show, guys, please rate and review on your favorite podcast app of choice. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok / app at frightmarespodcast, or email us stayspooky@outlook.com. You can follow me personally on Letterboxd at Dr. Proctor. You are Gabby
Watson LMP 90.
Booyah. Next episode or next week, Michael and I will be back doing Raising Cain from 1992. So until then, stay tuned and
Stay spooky.